What we do in our classroom is something that's called Genius Hour, and it's basically based off of Google's 20% time. So the employees at Google, they actually get 1 day a week to study what they want to study. Basically what's happening is schools, grades K through 12, are actually taking Google's policy and they're working it into their school day. So what it looks like in my classroom is about 1 hour a week where students get to study things that they are passionate about. Probably in your school's mission statement or vision statement is the word engagement. We really want kids engaged in their work, but I also think even more than engagement is this feeling of empowerment, right? So it's not only being engaged in your work, on task and interested in what you're doing, but it's also empowering. So when students are armed with the knowledge of those things that they're studying about, they really do become empowered. They feel like they know what they're talking about, they're excited about what they're talking about, and it's super motivating.
I'm working on learning about velociraptors. I'm learning about cheetahs, the fastest things now. I'm learning about kitties. Basketball.
You like basketball?
I'm learning about volleyball. Rocks.
When you give your kids choice and you let them be responsible for their learning, amazing, amazing things happen. Test scores go up, engagement goes up, motivation goes up, behaviors decrease, and they're completely all engaged because they get to sit where they want to sit and they have choice in their education. We love to have an hour a week, that's our goal. And so kind of being creative with your schedule and then also kind of fiercely protecting that time. The hardest part of the entire process is helping them figure out what they're interested in. And so asking them, what do they like to read when they have a free choice? What do they do at home? What kind of movies do they like to watch? What do they do when they're supposed to be doing something else? That's a good one.
They're my favorite dinosaurs and I really want to learn about them. Cheetahs are so fast and I like eating meat, so they're there. I really like it. I even have one. Next summer, I'm going to be in volleyball camp.
Kind of having the list of strategies, because inevitably you'll have some kids who say, I don't know what I'm passionate about, because all they've ever been told is what they have to study at school. All sorts of different things can come out of these projects. I had a student last year who really wanted a Siberian Husky, and her project actually turned out to be a persuasive presentation to send to her parents about the care of Siberian Huskies, how much they weigh, what do they look like, what do they eat, what do you do when they're sick, what are the risks of them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how easy are they to care for. It might be learning about computer coding. One girl, one year, she actually had a cousin who was born deaf. Her goal was to learn the American Sign Language alphabet so that she could fingerspell to her cousin. And that project I love talking about because it started with, that seems like a very lofty goal for me if you're, an 8-year-old, but it actually turned out to be her going to the School for the Deaf on the weekend, and she scheduled an interview with a sign language interpreter, videotaped the whole thing. So not only did we get to learn from this student, she went above and beyond. She learned more than obviously the alphabet. She learned, I think, 100 common signs, and she's still working on that practice today. 7-8 years later now. I mean, it can be anything from American Sign Language to Huskies to studying about Paris. I mean, really, the opportunities are pretty endless. So they write this proposal out and they say what it is that they want to study, what are some of their driving questions that they're going to have, what will their final presentation look like. It might be a demonstration, it might be a presentation, it might be a TED Talk. What will their final presentation look like? And then on the bottom, they sign their name and I sign my name. And if their project is approved, then they're able to go to the next step. And if their project is not approved, that means we need to rethink either the topic or a question or some part of that. Maybe it's the presentation at the end. What is your driving question? My driving question is, who dug up the first velociraptor? What could you type in the search box to figure out who dug up the first velociraptor? Or you could click, what do they eat? Because what do velociraptors eat? Because that's another one of your driving questions.
Should I?
So once they get approved, then they actually write their driving questions. And this is really the heart of the project, is where they come up with 6 different driving questions. And these are not just questions that you might answer with like a quick search on Google. These are questions that it will probably take you a half hour to maybe an hour to actually find 5 or 6 different things that support your question. And so they go through weeks and weeks of the studying of the driving questions.
Log salt is a chemical. Cats are the most popular animals. William Morgan, he made volleyball and he passed in 1942.
Lexi, who do you think knows more about rocks right now, me or you?
You.
No, you. Do you think I've done any research on rocks? No, so am I working on being a genius on rocks? No, so you are way smarter about rocks than I am right now. So I think one of the best things that I did was I collaborated with my media specialist. So if you have a media specialist in your building or a librarian in your building, they are like the Swiss Army knife of a school. Like, they have so many resources that I had no idea existed. Together, between us, we were able to really get a lot of resources for kids that not necessarily are all online. In fact, one of my favorite days is when my kids go for library checkout and she has pulled books on all of their topics or ordered books on their topics from some library that she knows about that I didn't know about, right? These books just appear and my kids come running back into the room and they're like, Mrs. Stormfeld, you'll never believe this, but Mrs. Freeman found a book about my topic. And I'm like, yes, kids, books are what we used to study before we had the internet. So like, yes, you are gonna have some books about this. So they're checking in with either me or the media specialist every single day that they're doing the Genius Hour project. So at the end of every half-hour session, we just have a quick chart for them and they fill out, what did you do today? And what do you do next time? What did you do today? What do you need to do next time? And just having that accountability piece was good, not only for them, but for us too, because we could go through and see if they may need help in the future, or if I need to bring something from home, or they need to bring something from home, or she needs to find a resource, or I do. They also have what's called in our classroom accountability partner. So an accountability partner is basically a buddy who's not even working on the same Genius Hour topic as you, but that's able to kind of troubleshoot with you throughout the process. If you are stuck on something, they're able to sort of help you out, but they're also there to help keep you accountable. Every once in a while, I'll just call out accountability check and they'll tell their partner what they're working on and they'll check in with their partner. And that alone has helped me make sure that everybody is on track. At the end of every Genius Hour sort of block or session is that project, is that presentation, is that sort of sharing everything that they learned. They feel so confident because they really have become a genius in this. And so not only is it a chance for the student to practice their speaking skills, but it's also a really great opportunity for students to practice their listening skills and also to practice asking questions that are actually pertinent and giving feedback about the presentation as well. So it always ends with that presentation, and that's really a huge component of Genius Hour. Sometimes it's maybe a keynote presentation. We've done TED Talk styles, we've done gallery walks, we've done all sorts of things to get them to be able to present their information. And it's not necessarily one size fits all. I remember one girl who really wanted to improve her art and her sketching. And so when it was time for her to do her project at the end, I was going to have her do some kind of presentation, and I quickly realized the best presentation for her would actually be to demonstrate and show us her drawing skills. And so not every Genius Hour project has to include some kind of technology component, but it could. When a student is practicing for their presentation, they actually go someplace quiet, or maybe in the hallway, or maybe they'll find a corner in our classroom, and they find their accountability partner, and sometimes a couple other students will be sort of like a mock audience, and they'll listen to the person who's presenting and they'll ask questions that might come up, or they'll give feedback. Sometimes it might be in the presentation, they're showing the presentation, but they're reading their slides. And so they'll say like, I need you to use more eye contact. Or they'll say, I really don't like that lime green font that you picked. Like you can't see it on the white background, so you might want to change that. So even though they're working on an individual project, it really does have just so many pieces of collaboration throughout the entire process. When it's time for presentation day, we stagger the schedule, and we might have 1 or 2 present the same day, and the rest are maybe still studying their topics or researching, so it's not like everybody presents on the same day. One thing that we do is we actually let parents know ahead of time, like your child has been studying this from anywhere between 4 weeks to 12 weeks, and they're ready for their presentation, and it is a big deal. They come dressed up. We make it a really big deal. We celebrate all of that work that they've done. And we invite the parents to come in, and if the parents can't come in, we video it and we put it on Seesaw, and they're able to get feedback from mom and dad as well. And I think at the end of the whole thing, kids are just beaming with excitement, feeling like they really have mastered this. They have a confidence that they didn't have before. I think probably one of the biggest troubleshooting tips is finding the time, making the time. I should say making the time, not finding the time, because we all have the same amount of time. And what's a priority in your classroom, there'll be time for that. Lots of times when I actually share about Genius Hour to other teachers, whether it be at a conference or an event, I talk about whatever the state standards are, and I can usually pick out at least 20 different standards that Genius Hour covers, from researching to synthesizing ideas to answering open-ended questions. There's usually at least 20 standards, so it's really not an add-on. It really can be something that you do in place of probably something that you're already doing in your classroom. We have done Genius Hour now and seen it grades K all the way up through universities are doing it. And so I think one of the big things that varies is, of course, the topics, because things that kindergartners are passionate about are going to be probably vastly different than something that a middle schooler or a high schooler might be interested in. But I think the practice remains the same of finding a driving question. And for little kids, for primary students, maybe they're doing 1 or 2 or maybe 3 driving questions. In 3rd grade, we have 6 driving questions that we study. And I think as you go older, you probably just have more driving questions to answer, more resources that you need to be pooling, maybe a few different requirements, but at the same time, it's really about identifying your passion, finding the resources, synthesizing the resources, and then having a presentation. So it truly does translate from a kindergarten student all the way past university, actually, to real life at Google. Do you know what to do? What are you going to click? Good. And what are you going to write on your paper? You need to add code.org to your resources that you're using, okay? So often as teachers, the impact that we make on students, we might not even see that school year. And maybe we see a glimpse of it that school year, and then maybe 5 years later, you see that student and they tell you about how much they remember about their Genius Hour project, or how much they loved coming to school and what they learned. And big picture wise, they're able to pick topics that they're interested about. They're able to come up with a proposal. They're able to pull resources from all over the place. They're able to give a presentation with confidence. I cannot tell you how many parents I've had say, like, I have never been more proud of my child up on that stage presenting their information. I didn't even know my child had that much confidence. I've never seen them feel so good about what they're doing as I did in that 10 minutes. The confidence carries everywhere, not just from the presentation, but into other aspects of their learning. They're willing to take risks, they're willing to become leaders, and it goes on to the next grade level and every grade level after that. So it's about the topic, but it's really about the person and the skills that they gain through Genius Hour. It's a bold move to do something like this, I think. So often when we're doing anything innovative in education, just knowing like it's probably not going to be a lot of comfortable steps for you. It's not going to be easy for you right away, but the benefits of it are just amazing. And so like I always say, if it's right for kids, it's right. And so it's not always about the teacher comfort level. It's really about doing what's best for your students. And so just diving in, just trying it, looking to pioneers who are doing it, like AJ Giuliani, John Spencer. They actually have a website. If you go to geniushour.com, you can look at free webinars. You can take a Genius Hour masterclass if you want to. I mean, just try it, do it. Reach out to me if you want to know more. You can go to my blog, topdogteaching.com. I have tons of Genius Hour resources on there. Send me an email through my website. Reach out to me. I would love to help you with this. I can't say enough how powerful it has been in my teaching and in my classroom.